Welcome back to The Grind for a guide on Act 7.3, quest number 1 with Muscle Wizard, Riot, and Can't Stop, Won't Stop. So the opponent is going to start with an unblockable buff, so you're going to have to find an in without using parry. Once you knock down the opponent, you're going to get an unstoppable buff, which is going to allow you to deal damage because Can't Stop, Won't Stop will reduce the damage unless you have an unstoppable buff. Knocking the opponent down while you have an unstoppable buff will give you a Fury buff, which can stack up to 4 times. When you knock the opponent down with a special attack, it will convert the unblockable buff into an unstoppable buff, and then your next heavy attack, the first hit, will change the unstoppable buff back into an unblockable buff. So this can get a little confusing, and if you get stuck with the opponent having an unblockable buff and you do not have enough power to throw off a special attack, then you will have to intercept or bait out heavy attacks in order to do this. Now, Dr. Doom is an incredible champion for this because he has easy knockdowns with chaining his heavy attack onto his combo, and he can gain power very quickly. He can steal power, so he can throw lots of special attacks and do lots of knockdowns, and he can build up those Furies very easily, and that unlocks a lot of damage for him, especially if you chain on a couple special 3s, and then you'll see some insane damage coming out of him, and we use him for most of the fights on this path. And if you have Dr. Doom, or even have 2 of them, then this path will be very simple for you, and potentially even a good one for completion as well. Other good options for this would be champions that have nullify potential, because they can remove the unstoppable or unblockable buffs, as well as champions like Dragon Man, who can gain power passively over time, because that will make it easier for you to throw off a special attack instead of having to intercept when the opponent is unblockable. So you can see Dr. Doom here is easily stacking up those Fury buffs and getting to special attacks to both nullify and stagger the buffs that would be triggering. So most of the fight, you don't even have to worry about unblockable or unstoppable buffs on the opponent, as long as you frequently chain on those heavy attacks, or if you're using special 1 to nullify, or even during your aura you can nullify buffs. So here we stacked up a bunch of Furies. We threw off that heavy attack at the wrong time, but look at the damage we were able to get on it anyways. So a very simple, straightforward fight with Dr. Doom yet again. The next fight is against Medusa, which is another champion that you can easily take down with Dr. Doom because of the buffs, especially if you have Mystic Dispersion unlocked, but even without Mystic Dispersion. The trick again is just getting those ins to get your first heavy attack off and your first special attack off, and then you can get into a cycle once you've removed the debuffs that it's more easy to parry and then chain on a bunch of heavy attacks back to back, stacking up those staggers to prevent buffs from triggering, or when they trigger, you can nullify them. So we're going into our special 3. We come out, we've already got some big damage going. We build up to a special 1 and then throw that off to get to a special 2. And again, huge damage potential from this, and just watch those incinerates ticker down so quickly. So Dr. Doom, I know he's an amazing champion, but he is just perfect for this path. Now, the problem is we're going up against Magneto, so Dr. Doom is not the option that we want, and I'm excited for this to put my Tigra to work. And I feel like Magneto's a good counter, or a good champion to take Tigra against, because you can phase through the special 1 or the special 2 and chain on those heavy attacks. But we're going to face a problem here, because we throw off our heavy attack and we knock him down, but we do not get an unstoppable buff. And we can't do normal damage without the unstoppable buff. And then we throw off our special attack, and we do remove the unstoppable buff on the opponent, which allows us to then get into a neutralized kind of lockdown, because he won't gain a buff while he is neutralized. But despite these knockdowns, we're not getting an unstoppable buff, and I'm not sure why this is happening. And I still don't know why this actually happened. I'm sure it's bugged in some way, but I was very frustrated when this happened, because I was actually doing fairly decent with Tigra so far, and I felt like after 1 or 2 special 2s, we should probably be pretty close to finishing off the fight. But unfortunately, we have hardly done any damage at all. And I think our damage is reduced by 90%, so you can see we've done almost 10% damage. That would actually have been 100% damage. So now we're starting to make some mistakes, and obviously I'm thinking to myself, what am I going to do with this? Because this was my counter for Magneto, and I can't see myself doing this entire fight, especially because I'm not a very proficient Tigra player yet. But, you know, I'm doing my best and making some mistakes along the way, but unfortunately we do end up making some bigger mistakes, and messing up a counter there. I didn't throw off the special 1 when I should have, and then we're going to make another mistake, I think, on this next special 1 against Magneto. We're going to get hit by it. It's going to do a lot of damage, and then the bleed is going to take us out, and there it is right there. A little bit slow on those light attacks, and now we drop. So now I'm a bit worried. My only other non-metal champion is Diablo, so we're going to go in with Diablo. Diablo's got some really good sustainability, but I do have to play around the unblockable buffs and the unstoppable buffs. Luckily, if you use the pre-fight with Diablo, you can nullify buffs while you have your Philosopher's Mix active. And while you have Philosopher's Mix active, you also are regenerating, so that's a nice way to get back some health. If you wait long enough after your special 1, you'll get a regeneration passive as well to get back even more health. So we're slowly chipping away at Magneto in this fight, but we're having a hard time since, every now and then we are ending up in a situation where he's unblockable and we have to intercept. Having the unstoppable buff is nice because then you can just kind of attack in, but you're going to take a lot of damage, and that's not something you want to do frequently. So in a pinch, you can just attack in when he's unblockable or allow him to attack into your block, and obviously he's unblockable, so it's going to hit through your block, but since you're unstoppable, you can then counter with a light or medium attack and then get your in that way and push him over a bar of power. But this is a little bit of a challenging fight without the right counter, especially since it's kind of difficult to counter Red Magneto special 1, so that means you can't punish the special 1 in order to get more ins, which means you might have to rely more on intercepting when there is an unblockable buff active. But this fight actually went pretty well with Diablo. I was able to finish him off, and we actually healed quite a bit during that fight and ended pretty close to 50%. Now the next fight is against Terrax. Now Terrax can be quite annoying, especially in this fight, but if you can continue throwing a bunch of heavy attacks to build up those Furies, and while he has the rock field active, you'll probably want to do a parry with a quick heavy attack to create space and push him away from you so you're not taking damage. Another good thing to do during the rock field is to throw off special 1s, because that way it keeps the distance and it's a decently long animation, so you can save yourself some of that damage as well. So you can see we're doing okay. It's also a bit of a slow fight. Since he's immune to shock, we can't easily chain on heavy attacks, but here we saved a special 1. After he activated his rock shield, we threw it off, and it nullified some of the indestructible buffs, gave us some power as well. And look at that damage, almost a 32k crit on the heavy attack, so the damage can be pretty good once you build up those Furies. And as you may have noticed, that rock field after the special 1, when we threw off our special 1 as a counter for that, it basically delayed long enough that the rock field ended by the time we had to parry him again. So now we're throwing off a special 3, and that's going to give us another Fury buff and increase our damage even more, and we're going to be able to finish off that last 9% before he is able to do anything else. So Dr. Doom yet again saving the day. And the last fight is against War Machine, and yet again we use Dr. Doom. He just makes this path so easy if you have him, but other champions you can use are ones that have easy access to nullify that will definitely make the fights a lot easier. But also, if you have Miles Morales, if you just leave the opponent unblockable, meaning you don't throw a special attack, you'll be able to cheese the fights as well. And when you do throw a special attack to get some damage with all those Furies, you'll just have to parry heavy to remove the unstoppable buff and put him back to unblockable. So I do hope that this video is helpful. Let me know what your thoughts are, what champions you used, and I hope to see you in the next video.